He's one of Britain's most famous politicians, but he's not the Prime Minister, and he's not the leader of the opposition. John Bercow is the Speaker, the man who controls parliamentary debate. And today he's hanging up his cloak after 10 years of keeping politicians in check. Mr Bercow has been a contentious figure, with some MPs questioning his impartiality when it comes to Brexit. Andrew Lebentz reports.
Order! Order!
Unconventional. Headmasterly and always ready with a put down.
Order! Difference of opinion is of the essence of politics. There is an elaborate combination of finger wagging and head shaking going on, which may be personally therapeutic, that is institutionally disadvantageous.
After 10 years, John Bercow is retiring from the Speaker's chair. As the guardian of parliamentary proceedings, he's been at the centre of a tumultuous time in British politics. Officially, the Speaker is a political neutral, barred from voting and respected on all sides of the House. But Bercow's made himself and his position pivotal to the workings of the House of Commons, and it's made him some political enemies. He controversially spent thousands of taxpayer pounds redecorating his official residence within weeks of moving in. He faced allegations of bullying staff. He'll be remembered for trying to rewrite the rules of the parliamentary process, including recently allowing backbench motions to upend the government's Brexit plans.
And although we may disagree about some of the legislative innovations that you have favoured, there is no doubt in my mind that you have been a great servant of this Parliament and of this House of Commons. You have modernised, you have widened access, you have cared for the needs of those with disabilities, and you have cared so deeply for the rights of backbenchers that you've done more than anyone since Stephen Hawking to stretch time in this particular session.
But above everything else, Bercow will be remembered as the man with the acerbic tongue. His put-downs garnered international acclaim for their wit and, at times, their directness.
Don't gesticulate, don't rant, spare us the theatrics, behave yourself, be a good boy, young man, be a good boy. Point of order, Mr. Ian Blackford. Thank you. Yes, we know the theatrics that he perfected at the Oxford Union. Not interested, not interested. Be quiet. Point of order.
Well, joining us now to discuss the legacy of John Bercow is journalist Seb Whale, who's currently writing a biography of the man. Thank you for your time this morning. John Bercow is probably the most well-known speaker in British history, but he doesn't come without controversy, does he?
No, he's been controversial throughout his life, from his days as a right-wing student through to when he was elected. He was already quite a controversial figure on the Conservative benches. And I think a key date in his history is the 3rd of February 2017, when he revealed how he voted in the EU referendum and became arguably the first speaker to speak out on such a controversial issue. And everything that's happened since then has really come to define his legacy.
Well, yeah, talking about defining his legacy, he's defined the role of speaker, really, hasn't he, over the last 10 years, particularly in light of Brexit. How much of a task is it for the next person to come in? Do they have to do that all again?
He's definitely remoulded it. I think part of it is the fact that the Commons is televised, and this has been such a period in British politics where there's been so much interest, both from domestically and abroad. I think the next speaker will how to define whether Bercow has changed the role for good, and if they carry on with his sort of interventionist ways, some of his controversies, then it certainly will be. My inkling is that the House will choose someone who's perhaps a bit more of a safe pair of hands and slightly less controversial in the wake of John Bercow.
One controversial thing, of course, was some of the allegations of bullying. They never really managed to push him off that post. He just seemed to rebuff all of those.
Yeah, I mean, they hover like a cloud, really. But when you look at his overall legacy, you can't not consider that, the bullying allegations against him. As you say, they've never really been properly considered for various reasons. And what I would say about John Bercow, he was a great reformer and capable of great things, but he did it in often uncompromising and very controversial ways. And in doing so, he often upset a lot of people along the way. And, the irony of this is, and perhaps some of the slight cruelty of politics, really, the bad stuff will be forgotten and the good stuff will be remembered, I would imagine.
So what will be that good stuff that will be remembered? We've talked about Brexit already, but what will be the legacy of this speaker?
Well, when he first got elected in 2009, he wanted to empower the Commons, he wanted to empower the backbenchers, and he undoubtedly has done that. The House of Commons is a real force these days, and arguably before, against successive majority governments, it really wasn't. I think that, in part, is his legacy. I think a big part is that he's also, in speaking out on Brexit, as he has, and taking some of the decisions he's made the speaker who's supposed to be seen but not heard, heard and seen. And that, in many ways, depending on what his successor does, could come to define his legacy.
Just finally, he won himself some very loyal supporters. Where did that support all come from? What fostered it?
Well, as I say, I go back to the 3rd of February. The second he outed himself as a Remainer, and I think everyone on the Remain side of the Brexit debate treated him as a hero. And people who I know who previously weren't fans of his, because they have this ideological affiliation on Brexit, they're now big fans. And conversely, Brexiteers think he's something of an enemy. And people who otherwise would have had a nuanced view now think that he is, it's damaged his legacy in some way. So, that was his big gamble. He took a side, and half the population loves him, half the population doesn't.